Hello. Come on in. Come on in.
Hi, how are you?
Would you like a tea or coffee?
Want a cup of tea? I'm the one that takes a coffee before sugars.
I think there's a seat over here. If you give a wee seat, I'll get the tea or coffee.
Hello everybody, come in, please find a seat.
Hello, Kairos Women.
Come on in, get a cuddle and a cuppa.
We can laugh. We can cry. We can talk anything that matters. With all of us together, it'll be chaotically beautiful. Let us all sit and enjoy the Brew and Blether.
Hello. Welcome to A Brew and a Blether, the Kairos podcast. I'm your co-host Jules. My pronouns are she, they. I'm a volunteer at Kairos, and I have another co-host here as well, but I'll introduce them later. We're here with three guests today. We've got Arpie, Gemma and Sarah Jane. Arpie, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Hello, my name is Arpie Martin. Pronoun is she, her, and I'm a Kairos volunteer. I'm a mother of two, 9 and 4. So, thank you for having me today.
Thanks for coming in, Arpie. Gemma, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hiya, my name is Gemma McLachlan and I'm a social work student, and I met everyone at Kairos when I was on placement between January and March earlier in 2020, and I have a 10-year-old Tasmanian devil of a child. His name is Jordan and he has been diagnosed with autism and ADHD.
Thanks. Thank you for coming, Gemma. I know things are probably really hectic for everybody right now anyway, but Sarah Jane, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Sarah Jane Russell. I'm 46 years old and I'm a mother of 3 boys, 16, 12 and 9. And my pronouns are she, her, and thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you for coming along, Sarah Jane. It's good to see everyone. And finally, my co-host Frankie. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, I'm Frankie. I'm also a volunteer at Kairos. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm not the parent of anyone. Thank you all for coming. We're just going to use this time to just talk about our experiences of this year, about the lockdown, about the imminent second lockdown. So we're just going to start off by asking, how are you all feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good, and I'm glad to be here today.
I'm glad you're here too. It's good to see you. We haven't seen you in ages.
I know. Feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah. I remember that day. We were in Kairos when I think we got that email or text message about lockdown.
Yeah, and my placement was suspended that day, and I was asked to. The email was quite harshly worded that I was to leave the premises immediately.
And we were just like, oh my god.
I know, and it felt like I was being fired, and I just sat there trying not to cry.
It was pretty gutting. It was a bit of a shocker for all of us as well.
Yeah, it made the looming lockdown seem so very much more real at that point, because we all knew it was coming, but we just didn't expect anything to hit us that day. Yeah, it was scary. That was 2 weeks before official lockdown began in the UK.
Was it?
Yeah, I got
before it. My sense of time is completely warped.
My placement was suspended a full 2 weeks, or maybe just 13 days before actual lockdown started. So I had 2 weeks of freedom. I knew lockdown was coming, but I had 2 weeks of Monday to Friday with Jordan still being in school, and I knew I had to go on as many walks as I possibly could, and just get as organised and see as many people as I could before it actually happened.
That's quite good. At least, I mean, obviously not great, but it's good that despite the kind of, the harshness of that, you got something good out of that as well.
I was able to make a good plan, I feel, because I'm usually in lockdown anyway, unofficially during the summer holidays or any school holidays, because it's very hard to get Jordan out doing things outside that he enjoys. So I was able to kind of move myself into survival mum mode very easily, and I knew what I had to do to prepare for that.
How's everyone else feeling?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm doing good. I was doing some work on the computer before coming here, so I'm kind of busy, but I need to find time for this. So I'm all right generally. And I'm glad the children are in school. So I'm kind of doing things my own way.
Yes. My favourite times are when Jordan is in school or when he's asleep.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I'm feeling good too. I've got one of my children is off sick from school today, so I'm a wee bit worried about him. But other than that, feeling good.
Well, I'm glad we're all kind of, I don't know, we're not massively as doom and gloom as the weather is outside right now. You know, I mean, it wouldn't be a terrible thing if we weren't feeling great, but it's quite nice that we can kind of connect and still, I don't know, I feel like we're all on a similar level at the moment.
I think it's been a bit of a roller coaster, hasn't it? You've came from panic, coping, just feeling a bit stressed about everything, and now you're just having to cope with it. So you have to try and get to a good place, otherwise it's not healthy for you. So I feel as if it's been a bit of a roller coaster, and it still is, to be fair, but it's all about trying to keep yourself calm, because when you're a parent, you don't really have the luxury of losing your plot, really, do you? You have to be calm for the children.
Yeah, you've got to always just find a way to keep it together, get up and do it all again the next day, and do it with a smile on your face as best you can.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And some days are easier than others, obviously.
And as you say, when the children are at school or they're sleeping, that's the time that you can get some time for yourself to compose yourself and find your calm, whatever that may be. I've been listening to the radio. That seems to be my calm at the moment. Jeremy Vine show from 12 to 2 every day seems to get me through my day. I don't know why. It's just since lockdown I've found it. And it's a really good chat show with lots of good information. So I quite like to do that every day when I can.
It's a good wee routine to have.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and that's still like connection with the outside world as well. If you're listening to a talk show and hearing other people's opinions and keeping up to date with things.
Exactly.
I don't envy the extra stress that being a parent during lockdown will have, because like it's already, you know, it's stress. The whole pandemic thing is really stressful anyway, but then when you're a parent, you've also got to you're shepherding two other, or not always two, but you're shepherding like other humans through this too. I can't, like, I've never been a parent. I don't intend to ever be a parent. And I can't imagine, like, the extra burden of that. And I think it's kind of amazing that you've been able to still, I think to still be you.
For us, personally, for me and Jordan, because he's always been an indoor boy anyway, he was living his absolute best life. He loved being off school. He loved not having to go anywhere. He just wore his pants every day. He get washed every second day, and that was him in his absolute element. He's a creature that loves his home comforts. So it wasn't like we don't really have any like stressful events going on within the home. We're able to keep things quite happy. So it's just, for me, it's boredom personally. But do you know, the saving grace about lockdown is the weather was so nice at the beginning of it. And so although we weren't able to really go anywhere, I still had the garden to sit in, and I was so thankful for that. Really, really grateful for the fact that I have a garden now, because my previous home didn't have one. And I think lockdown would have been a very different experience for me if I had still been living in a flat.
I think for me it's been the complete opposite. I feel my children are very outdoor children. So every day it was like walking in eggshells, like how are they going to be? Which I've got 3 children, so which one of them is going to kick off? Because normally one of them would. And I found getting outdoors with them was such a difference. They were all right in the house for a wee while, but they just started bickering with each other. So for us, our saving grace was getting out and going on lots of walks and just getting away from everything. Taking the dog and going up to the parks or wherever we could find green space, and they were in their element when they were outside when the weather permitted it. But as you say, at the beginning it was very good, so we loved it when we could get out, and it helped my mental health as well, just getting out in the fresh air and forgetting about everything for a wee hour, you know, just getting out and doing, just walking and talking and not having to worry about anything else until you got back home again.
Same with me. It's like when the lockdown happened, it's summertime and you plan so much, like you're going on holiday and stuff like that. It's kind of annoying that you planned ahead like months before and then it happened. But the only good thing is that my children are they love being home anyway. They love going to school, but they love spending home with us, and it's a good weather as well. They can just play outside. The outside of my house is like a whole playground, and there's a woods in front, so we can just walk whenever we want to. So it's kind of hard to find routine for them, but it's like as the time goes by, as the days go by, you just kind of live with it and get used to it. So it's kind of getting better. So for it's a different experience, but you just learn to live with it.
There was a big kind of novelty element at the beginning as well, I feel, when everybody was making TikToks and like getting drunk every night and going on Zoom and having parties like that. So there was still fun things happening. Me and my cousins started doing a weekly Zoom on a Thursday night, and that's including two cousins that live in England, so we would go years at a time without seeing them. So we were spending time together again, and that was fun. But I was online like Thursday nights, Friday nights, Saturday nights, like every single week, joining all these parties. And in Inverclyde we had this Inverclyde Lockdown Live happening, and it was all different like performers from the local area, and they were going online and singing their songs and reading their poems, doing things like that. And my cousin, who owns a bar, also had an open mic night that they usually hosted, so they just transferred that online. So there was still things to do in this novelty like period when it was still like all new and exciting and what's going to happen next, to balance like with all the terrifying uncertainty of people are going to get ill and everybody's going to die. So I feel like there was like quite a good balance in those first kind of early few weeks as well. Not like now when it's been dragging on and on and on. It feels like it's never going to end.
There's a sort of feeling that we've kind of gone through different phases of it. So at first it was quite novelty, everyone was on Zoom and stuff, and then it was kind of the period of just waiting for it to be eased and then coming out of it. I was wondering, Gemma, you were talking about how during the sort of initial periods of lockdown your son was more comfortable being indoors quite a lot. Has it been kind of difficult sort of for him to move out from that when the lockdown's been eased, and how has he found that, and how have you found it really?
I was so worried about the transition for him going back to school. I imagined tears, snotters, tantrums in the morning. And his first day back at school, he got up, got ready, and like skipped out the door to the school transport. And he was such a happy wee guy. And again, I really couldn't believe my luck. I just felt like this is brilliant. And he transitioned back into school, no bother. Then the school haven't phoned once and asked me to take him home or report any problem or anything like that since he's been back.
Mm-hmm. So he's just taken to it then?
Yeah, he did.
It's strange how quickly people can adapt, especially sort of given how new things are, and now it just feels like every day. I'm not sure I'm going to feel the same when we're not worrying about a pandemic all the time.
Well, with me, I've got 3 children, so one of my oldest child missed his exams. He was in 4th year, so he was a bit apprehensive about going back because he didn't know how he had done at school and he was going straight into a 5th year. So he was a wee bit worried, but thankfully he was fine. He did really well in his National 5 exams, and the first exam he'll ever sit is actually going to be a higher exam, which is really strange to think. But he's doing okay. My middle child, the one that's off sick, Logan, he's 12. He missed his primary 7 year at school, which was a real shame. He missed his prom. He missed all the fun activities that you do at primary 7. Days out activities, going round and speaking to all the teachers, getting a little scrapbook with what people think of you and all your memories and stuff. So he missed so much. And I would say out of my 3 children, he struggled the most. And I was really, really concerned about him for a long time. He would sometimes just go really quiet and go into himself and get really upset and start asking what heaven was like and can he go up and see his gran in heaven. And I was so worried about him. And luckily, the school allowed a slight transition, so half the class were allowed to go back to primary 7 just for like 2 hours one day. And that really helped him because they got a little gift and they got to see the teachers for the last time. And he got to see some of his friends. And then the high school also did a transition for an hour one day. So they got a wee look at what the school would be like that he was going to. So he gradually got a wee bit better, and he is a particular boy for being outdoors. So we were so grateful that the weather was lovely and he could get outdoors and just enjoy nature. And gradually he got better. Going into high school, he's kind of up and down. It's a totally different experience than primary school, and I wouldn't say that he's went into it really easily. He's still really worried about the pandemic because you're going into school and you're having to wear a mask, you're having to hand sanitize, you're having to social distance if you can. You're not allowed to go out really at lunchtime or anything. So it's a wee bit stressful for him. Sometimes he copes better than others, but on the whole, I would say he's doing okay. And my youngest child, Oscar, who's 9, you would think nothing's happened to him. He's just like loves school, loves his friends, loves going out to play. So he's absolutely fine. And he's, I would say, the one that's not had really any problems at all so far. He seems to have coped really well with it. And sometimes now and again he'll say, "Is the coronavirus over yet, Mum?" And I'll say, "Well, not yet, son, but we're getting there." But on the whole, he has coped the best, I would say. Maybe that's just his age, I'm not sure. But yeah.
It could be the age, because same thing with Chloe. She's 9, and the only thing she misses most was actually her friends. But we've been doing the calling and stuff like that, so it helped a lot. And she's very good with artwork, and she loves reading a lot. Like, she's a bookworm. And so I don't have any problem with her having being idle or just watching all the time. No, so she's fine, totally fine with that. In terms of Clyde, she's young. She just started the nursery, so there's not much aside from just being in the house. So there's nothing really. The only difference was like because Clyde started becoming more aware of the things, so they kind of fight more. So that's the only thing that, like, they can scream to each other more because they can Clyde can fight back to something like that. But in general, they cope very well. The only thing I think is the more is the hardest for me is for me to make a routine for them, because at the same time I do a work. I help my husband with the business that we have, so it's kind of juggling spending time with them. And sometimes I'm thinking, what about maybe I'm not spending too much time with them, or at the same time I'm not spending too much time helping with the business. So it's kind of you're in the middle, and at the same time the house is a mess. You need to cook, do lots of cooking. So these are the things that was really hard for me at first, but when they started going back to school, they're fine and started to become a more easy and it's like normal again. So it's, unlike with Sarah Jane, there's the age of 16-year-old and Logan as well being at a different level. So for me, having 2 children that's on their age 9 and 4, they're kind of fine and they're aware of what's happening, but they just go on with it.
I think it sounds like, Sarah Jane, for your middle child, he's really missed so much. He's had that whole coming of age experience kind of taken away from him, and it was really scary for him, I would imagine, going into high school without having had the visit and the transition and being away from your friends for that length of time, because that's quite a vulnerable age, and it's a hard time in your life for anybody really, going from the wee school to the big school. So I think it would have been really difficult for him.
Yes, he started asking that he wanted a pet as well. This was another thing that he kind of homed in on. Can I get a pet? Can I get a pet? And we already had 2 guinea pigs that nobody bothered with, so I was very reluctant at the beginning. And we do have a dog as well. And I kept saying, "You've got a dog." He's like, "But that's the family pet. I want my own pet." So he must have asked for at least 3 months for a pet. And I thought, right, this isn't going away anywhere. I thought, something more than, what's this all about? And I think he just wanted something to look after. So anyway, we relented and we got him a wee dwarf hamster, and honestly, it's the best thing ever. He absolutely loves them. He cleans the cage out. I haven't had to do anything to it. And it's just gave him a wee sense of responsibility and something to love and care for that's just for him. And I don't know why I didn't do it sooner, because maybe he wouldn't have had such a hard time. But I kept thinking, I'm not cleaning out another cage. I've had to do it with guinea pigs for 5 years. But anyway, we live and learn. But yeah, he's been a lot better having this wee hamster to look after. So it's strange how their wee minds work and, you know, what works for him. And he seems a lot more positive now.
That's lovely, though. He was probably feeling quite lonely and didn't really know what to do with himself, and now he's got a sense of purpose again now that he's a hamster dad.
Yeah, I think that's it. And he used to spend quite a lot of time in his room, and he never ever did that before, and that was a new thing for him, and that worried me also, because he was always down in the living room with the family, and then all of a sudden he started just wanting to be by himself. And I know that can come with their age as well, but at least now when he's in his room, he's got his hamster and he's playing with his hamster or cleaning the cage out, or he's got a purpose, as you say, and he seems to be getting there. He seems happier now, so it's so hard. And I think as a parent, you kind of don't think about yourself, or you don't get a chance to until it's too late, until you're actually at the point you think, right, hold on a minute here, I need some time for myself, I need some help, because you just think about them all the time. How can I make their life better? How can I make this transition going up to high school better for him? And so I think you forget to look after yourself. And my husband works for himself as well, so his work really struggled. So I felt as if I was kind of holding him together as well. He is very active and hates to be sitting about doing nothing. So when his work dried up and he had to stay in the house, he just totally changed. He couldn't cope at all. So I was kind of like trying to hold everybody together as well, which you can only do for so long, because who's holding you together? And this is where Kairos has just been an absolute godsend. See, getting a wee card through the door telling you, oh, we miss you, you know, can't wait to see you again, and remember how important you are. And gosh, that helped me so much, I'll not tell you. And even just, we've got a WhatsApp group, and been able just to, I'm not active in it all the time, but just being able to see what other people are doing, or, you know, somebody will put on something they've seen, it's a nice picture, or that just helps you so much as well. Just a wee pick me up to remember that, yeah, you're not on your own, you have got support and you've got help, and don't forget to ask for it, because I think a lot of the time, for me especially, I forget to ask for help, or I forget to look after myself. So Kairos has been, I'm so grateful for Kairos, definitely. I think my experience would have been different if I didn't have that support. Going to get emotional now.
I'm already like tearing up. Yeah, you mentioned that card. I remember a card coming through as well, and I was in floods of tears then, because it just totally brings back to the forefront of your mind, like, oh, these are my loved ones, and they're still out there, and they're still living their lives and everything. And then again, looking at the WhatsApp group and seeing somebody just put up a wee picture of a walk they've been on, or like, good morning, and it's absolutely lovely to have that.
It's nice. It brightens your day, isn't it?
And the thing is, if we didn't have this lockdown, this pandemic, we wouldn't have had that. You would have had to have physically went to Kairos on a Thursday drop-in to get that support, and sometimes that wasn't always, I couldn't always do that. So to be able to drop in and out of a WhatsApp group, or just get a wee card through the door, it's been so lovely. And Kate dropped off something to me as well, and just to see her as well, I was like, oh, I'm wanting to give you a hug, but I can't. You know, it just kind of brings it home that you're not on your own, and you're not the only one that's going through all these hard times. There's a lot of people going through things, and it's just about remembering that, really, and not forgetting that you've got support and you've got help out there. So that's so vital.
Yeah, I think that's something for us all to remember, either as part of Kairos or just personally, about the things that, you know, the positive changes that have come out of things, you know, being able to have a WhatsApp group or have drop-ins on Zoom that's more inclusive, that we maybe didn't think about when we've just got actual in-person meetings, and then you kind of forget about all the rest of it. But there's, you know, and personally as well, things like the stuff around Inverclyde and being on Zoom calls and seeing cousins that you don't see very often. I think there's definitely some positives that we can take out of it for how we go forwards. Similarly, is there anything about this year that you think's maybe changed you, or the sort of the one thing that you have learnt about yourself or about, you know, life that has come out of this year?
Well, for me, staying in the house with my two children, it makes you just makes you realize that whatever you have, you're very lucky. And also it makes you appreciate things usually that you don't appreciate or you don't notice. Like, for example, staying late in bed 30 minutes with your children, cuddling, aside from the screaming and shouting, that you just appreciate it. And they tell you about their dreams from last night and all of the things, all of the characters that they're watching. And also for my Clyde, he's 4, you relearn all of the nursery rhymes. Like, oh, you will think, oh, well, not because I've been through that with Chloe, but here's my 4-year-old boy again singing all of this. So you're kind of enjoying it at the same time, although it's cliche, but it's like, although you hear it like 100 times a day, you kind of enjoy it and just join the fun. So small things that you don't appreciate before or you don't notice at all, you're saying, oh, how lucky we are, how lucky I am to be in this position, although there's a pandemic chaos everywhere. It's because, aside from that, because I'm thinking of my family back in the Philippines and the situation there is entirely different here. So it's kind of worries me so much, but at the same time, I'm very fortunate and lucky to be in this position and having my house and my children and still a job to do. So the realization there is like being just so lucky to have your family with you and you're all healthy and you have roof over your head and food on your table. So I'm just being lucky. That's what I can say. I'm just very blessed.
For me, my whole life has changed, really. My job's changed. My attitude has changed. So for me, I've actually had quite a positive experience on the whole, I would say, although it's been very difficult at times. I worked for a travel agent, which I wasn't particularly enjoying for a long time, but it was convenient because it was in my doorstep. I was up the road from the kids' school. So I've done it for a long, long time. I've been there for 15 years. So when lockdown hit, I started working from home for the travel agents. But then they put me on furlough and made me take my annual leave, and just everything changed. And I panicked, went into complete panic mode because my husband didn't have a job. He works for himself, wasn't getting any help at all. So I started working in a supermarket, being a home shopper, which was incredibly hard work. I've no idea how hard it was. Standing on your feet for 8 hours, shifts, sometimes 9 hours, going round picking other people's shopping, which I was so grateful to have that job, and also so grateful to help vulnerable people who weren't able to get out shopping, but made me totally realise that, you know, this is such a hard job. So I did that for a while, and then I applied for another job. So at one point I actually had 2 jobs and had applied for another job. So I'm now, I've totally changed my job. I'm working at a totally different job in the health sector, and I'm absolutely loving it. And if it hadn't been for this pandemic, I probably wouldn't have left the travel agents. I probably would have stayed there until maybe my kids were a lot older and I was a lot older as well. So in a way, I'm kind of grateful because I'm doing a job that I really love. I'm here for the kids during the day and I'm working at weekends and some nights, not night shift, like a back shift, from 5:30 at night till midnight. So it's working really well for me as a family. And I feel so much, I'm really proud of the job I'm doing and what I'm achieving, and I feel so much a sense of pride in myself and actual job satisfaction, if that makes sense. I never really had that for a long time where I was before. So I'm so grateful as well. I've worked the whole time. I never stopped working during lockdown, so I had to work, homeschool and keep everybody sane as well. So I had quite a difficult time, I would say, trying to balance everything. But at the moment, it seems to be going well and I'm in a good place, so I'm really pleased.
That's amazing. I had no idea that you were going through because I knew about the travel agency thing, and I thought, oh God, with the pandemic on, that's not going to go well. And I actually didn't know that you'd gone into these 2 different jobs as well on top of it, and that's God. Even the process of applying for and interviewing jobs is stressful, and then you've got that extra stress on top of the parenting during a pandemic, and then the job stuff, and it's yeah.
I think I was kind of pushed into action. You're kind of pushed into action though, because you couldn't think, oh, I have to go for an interview. How am I going to cope? What am I going to wear? What am I going to say? I couldn't think like that. I had no choice. I was pushed. I had to do something, and that's the way I felt. And I thought, if I don't get this job and it doesn't work for me, I'm going to go for something else. Whereas I don't think I would have been like that before, if that makes sense. I think it was just that you have to do something, because under travel agents, they also cut my hours. So I was only doing 3 days a week, and they wanted me to do half of that. So 3 days one week and no days the other week, which effectively at the end of the month meant you'd have half your pay. So it was like, we can't survive on half a pay for me and my husband not working at all. So it was like, I had to do something. It was just, panic mode. I think you just had to get a job, and that was it. And actually the experience of applying for a job, it was totally different, because obviously there was no face-to-face interview. So it was a application online initially. Once you've passed that, I got a phone assessment, and then it was a Zoom interview, which was so strange. I was sitting in my bedroom in my slippers having an interview with someone. It was really, really strange. But it worked, so different experience.
Do you know what I was wondering, guys? Did you try and homeschool?
Did we what? Try
to homeschool?
Try being the operative word, Gemma.
Yes.
I tried very hard. My 16-year-old was very difficult for him, because he should have been on study leave studying for exams, but knew that he didn't have to do exams, so he really did not very much at all. And the 2 younger ones, they were right into it at the beginning. They enjoyed it at the beginning because it was all online and they could see their friends, and it was okay at the beginning, but then gradually they realised that out of a class of 24, there was maybe 8 of them doing it. And they were saying, well, why am I doing it if such and such isn't doing it? How are they allowed to miss it and I need to do it? And it became so stressful, especially with my 12-year-old. And I actually got to the point, and I spoke to the head teacher and I said, look, he's not interested. He doesn't want to do it. He's, what can I do? I don't want him to miss out. I don't want him to go to high school and he's behind anybody. And she said, look, his mental health is the most important thing. Get him to do something he loves. Get him to write a story about something he enjoys. It doesn't need to be a format of what we are sending you. And in actual fact, there was no new teaching. It was all just going over what they had learned. So once I changed my attitude about it, and I said, right, what can we do that's different here, that we don't need to do the exact things that they're sending on the Glow Classroom, he calmed down a wee bit and he enjoyed it. He started writing stories. He was into WWE wrestling at the time. So he started to make a book about all his favourite wrestlers, what they were doing, what their background was, and he totally changed as well. Not that we did that all the time, but the actual mainstream homeschool was very, very difficult, and I hope I never need to do it again.
I know it's very difficult for us. We're not like teachers that you know what to do and you have this planned lesson and all. We just don't have it, especially that our children knows that there's TV, there's internet, there's tablet, laptop. It's just different. But I'm just really glad that even before the lockdown, Chloe was really good in reading and she loves drawing and writing. So I'm kind of okay with her when I just say, you're not going to have this tablet till from this time to this time. You just do some artwork or painting. And I'm really glad with the age difference Chloe and Clyde has, because Chloe's like the teacher. She's acting like a teacher to Chloe. So I was like saying, oh, good, I don't have to be the teacher today. And sometimes she's going to make up some writing activities for Clyde. So that time I was bringing some work in my house. So while I'm doing this work, Chloe and Clyde are just outside. We were all outside enjoying the sun, and they were like teaching each other, or Chloe is pretending to be a teacher, reading this and that. So it's kind of fun, and this is the things that I really appreciate as well during lockdown, because I see things that I don't usually see if they're in school. So it's really good. I enjoyed it, although I have some worries and stuff like that, but I just enjoyed it as well with my children, seeing them like the 4 months before they going back to school, the difference that made the 4 months that made the 4 months that they gone through in our house and what we're doing together. It's just amazing. They just amaze me, both of them.
I tried to homeschool as well in the beginning. The school where Jordan goes, it's a communication and language base attached to a mainstream school. So there are 14 pupils in it just now, ranging from primary 1 to primary 7, and they all have autism. So the packs that the school were sending out were just folders that were filled with activities that would also cater from primary 1 to primary 7. So trying to get Jordan to engage with a lot of the materials, he wasn't really interested in it. And then so I bought some things myself, because he's still, he doesn't really have his basics yet, even though he's 10. So we were going over like how I learned to read and write, and I bought Letterland things, which is like how they done it in the 80s. Tried to like get him to know all these characters and the sounds. We watched Letterland videos. I had bought fridge magnets to spell things out with, posters, like all these different resources, and he still just wouldn't engage. He thinks that if he tells you the answer once, he should never have to tell you again. So don't ever ask him, because he's sick of it, he's bored of it already. So, but I still felt like a lot of pressure to try and homeschool. So I didn't really know what else to do. So I ended up just teaching him how to prepare his own meals, put the washing machine on. I had him like hoovering, which he absolutely loves. And I just started to teach him all different things around the house. So he was still learning some new skills. And he was quite surprising as well, like how well he really took to it, how he enjoyed preparing his own meals. And it gave me an opportunity that I would never have had. I'd have still been doing everything all the time. If he'd been at school, I wouldn't even have occurred to me to try and teach him how to prepare his own meals. Basic things like, you can make yourself a ham sandwich now. You can put toast and beans on. You can put the bread in the toaster and some beans in the microwave, and that was good for us.
That's good.
Yeah.
We did a bit of baking as well, which was good.
Do you know, I haven't actually had them put anything in the grill yet, but maybe we could work up to that. Do you know, one day I also asked them to make me a cup of tea without giving them a demonstration. I was upstairs and I couldn't be bothered going downstairs, and I'm like, Jordan, go and make me a cup of tea. And although I'm terrified inside, he's going to be using the kettle. I don't know if this is a good idea. I'm also thinking, just let him try it and see how he goes, because he'd been doing so well at every other household activity he'd been asked to do. So he boiled the kettle, he put the water on, and he's like, where are the tea bags? And I said, they're in a green box. So he went into the cupboard and he got a green box that had vegetable stock cubes in it. And he unwrapped the vegetable stock cube and put it in the water, and put it in the mug, poured the water in, and then he thought he had made me a cup of tea, and he gave me this stock water. The lump was just lying there at the bottom of my mug, and I was like, I couldn't even pretend. My mum was like, Gemma, that was cruel, you should have said it was delicious and just drunk it. And I was like, no. I just had to say, no, you've not done that right. But he won't do it now. He won't even try to make a cup of tea because he'd done it wrong the first time. So I don't know when I'm going to get my tea made for me.
No breakfast in bed anytime soon then?
No, that's not coming. He'll make his own breakfast and take it to his bed, but he's not doing it for anybody else.
You might just have to learn to like the taste of gravy then.
We did things like the kids were painting the huts and stuff like that. And baking, we baked. My youngest likes to bake, so he was baking cakes, and my oldest was teaching everybody how to make pizza dough from scratch. So things like that kept you occupied, and it was something a wee bit different rather than just sitting at a computer trying to do schoolwork as well. And in actual fact, if they're baking, they're using their math skills because they're having to measure out the ingredients. So that was our maths that week. But it was really hard. It was very, very difficult trying to motivate them even. Once they get into something, if they actually enjoyed it, I found it was okay, but it was getting the motivation just the draw to the video games was just far more than the draw to the school classroom. So
I think it can feel like a sort of pressure to kind of, even though everything's changed and everything's very different to how it usually is, but to try and sort of do things in a normal way, or to, you know, learn things in a normal way. But sometimes I guess kids just learn better if they're doing whatever it is that they want to do, and it keeps them occupied, and they can be a hamster daddy or learn to make a sandwich or something. It's just, yeah, I mean, not feeling that pressure on yourself can be quite difficult. I mean, I've not got kids, obviously, but I think at times I've sort of been feeling like, oh, I need to be doing something, and it's only when I've kind of told myself, actually, you don't need to be doing things, that I've then started just doing things. So yeah, sometimes just taking that pressure off, especially during this sort of time,
that's exactly true. You couldn't have said it any better. That's exactly the same with me. The pressure, once I took the pressure off the schoolwork and just thought, right, we'll see what happens, it was a totally different atmosphere in the house. Nobody was shouting, nobody was worried about, oh, I've not done it, I need to get this to do, I've got to get that to do. It was just like, do you know what, do what you can. And if that day you wanted to bake a cake, we're baking a cake. And I told the school that. I mean, I actually was very honest with the school, you know, because I think the thing is, you were thinking, I'm the only person that's going through this. I bet you every other child is sitting doing every single piece of work that's getting sent. But when you stop worrying about other people and think, well, you're not other people, this is your family, let's just concentrate on your family and that's it. And I don't think they've done too bad. They've went back to school and they seem to be coping well, so hopefully they didn't miss too much, you know. I'll take my hat off to the teachers. It's a hard job.
I can't even, yeah, that's...
And there'll be a lot of people in the same boat. I think it's kind of, it tends to feel like, oh, well, everyone's going to be doing better than me, because of course they are, but I think for most people they're probably having similar difficulties and challenges. I think maybe half their houses in the country have just got loads of cakes that the kids have been making over the 4 months. It's just like, what do we do with all this cake? You just put it in the freezer.
No, you put it in your belly.
Yes. Eat it.
Yeah.
That's like when the lockdown started, like people started using this TikTok and posting so much, will have more time to post something in social media. So that's when they started posting like a sourdough, all of the bread that they can make. I was like, oh, I don't want baking. I just want to eat them.
Yeah. So much bread.
It's funny.
Oh. It was actually a really nice time on the internet, because it's just pictures of bread everywhere. Really
I know.
Nice. Yeah.
And everyone became a chef.
Yeah, it's just pictures of bread and people trying to find toilet roll.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
March 2020.
So was there any kind of... So did you find out if other parents have been having similar sorts of problems? Is there any kind of, I don't know, like support network or communication network set up for parents having to deal with lockdown stuff?
I already had a little informal WhatsApp group that I had set up with the mums from Jordan's base. Now, not all of the mums, just the ones that were in Jordan's like primary 1-2 class. It was the same kids, and they've kind of moved through the stages in the base together. So we had that, but nobody really seemed to be too stressed out about the academics with getting their children to engage with it. I think everybody found that it was just a bit of a lost cause really with us, but I don't know how it was really for the mainstream parents. I think us anyway, we kind of gave up a week or two into it, realising that with the academics it just wasn't going to work.
Aside from Kairos, for me, it's like I haven't heard of any other support. Maybe because I'm just not looking. I just remember one of my friends or someone I know, it was actually very affected with this lockdown because she doesn't really have so many friends and she doesn't talk too much. So she's very nice. When you talk to her, she's gonna talk away. But just this lockdown, like not seeing anyone face to face, churches are closed, you cannot go on the buses. So it's kind of a really negative impact on her, and she doesn't want to talk to anyone, even though as a friend you want to try to at least help. But it's like, what can you do if the person doesn't want to talk to you or doesn't want to see you? It's really kind of hard.
That is hard.
What about,
it's hard for everyone.
Support for yourselves? Did you... Because you've talked a bit about being able to find time for yourselves and how you're kind of your own needs and your own, I suppose, looking after your own mental health comes second to, especially to the kids. Have you had any, like, outside of Kairos, because, you know, we're great and everything, but have you had much in the way of support there, or has there been a lack of it, or like, even, do you have ideas for more, what could be better in that?
Well, I don't know, but in terms of other groups, I'm not very sure. But it's like this time, what I did during lockdown, just to help my mental health, was actually going walking with my friends. I did a lot of walking with my friends, so it's kind of helped me a lot to have fresh air. So aside from that, in terms of groups, you cannot go anywhere anyway, and you cannot. So, but that's what I did during lockdown. That's what I did for myself to help me to cope with what's happening around.
Yeah, I was kind of the same. To like support my own mental health, I was either going for walks when I could get out, or my next door neighbour is actually a PT, so I was able to start doing PT lessons in the front garden together. So she has a little studio that our dad built in the back garden, but we weren't allowed in that at the time, so we would just get some equipment out and bring it out into the front garden, and and she was only asking for £5 per session as well, so it was affordable, and I was doing that 3 times a week. Yeah, that was a real saving grace for me, because I feel like when we got to kind of the middle of lockdown and it felt like it was going on forever and things was never going to get back to normal, and like my mood was starting to drop a bit, I was able to do that and really just level back out again. So exercise is the answer.
Definitely. I didn't have too much time to think about myself at all, because I was in the middle of trying to get a new job. I was working at the supermarket all the time, and then I was working from home as well, so I was busy all the time. The part I enjoyed the most was getting out walking with the children, going up to the woods and climbing trees and finding flowers and just simple things that actually made us so happy. And out the back door painting stones, and just total back to basics, things that you never usually get the time to do. There was no clubs on, so the kids weren't rushing to different clubs every night, so you could just go out a walk with the dog for 2 hours. That was fine. I felt I was trying to support everyone else in my family. My sisters and my mum and dad haven't left the house since March. They're absolutely terrified, and both have underlying health conditions, so I felt my relationship with them's actually got better, weirdly enough, because I was picking the phone up to them, and we were doing the Zoom meetings, and I was actually making an effort because I was worried about them. And the same with my sisters. They were both furloughed and not working at all. They were at home, whereas I was probably lucky enough that I was working. So your mental health was okay because you were working and you were kept going, and I started a new job, so it was new people I was talking to, and you quickly realised that everybody was in the same position. Everybody was struggling. And we kind of felt like key workers because we were in the supermarket doing all the home shopping, so they were all complaining that, everybody's furloughed and we're having to work, but in actual fact, that probably was my saving grace, that I did get that job and I was able to work and help other people and help myself as well, and do my shopping when I was at work, so that was good.
Yeah, Sarah Jane, you just really reminded me there at the beginning of lockdown. Now, because I had already been through lots of summer holidays and Christmas holidays and Easter holidays with Jordan, when I had been stuck in the house and my friends would be taking their kids and going places, and I always kind of felt like I was left out sometimes. See, having them all in that same situation where none of them could get out the house, none of them could take their kids anywhere, and I was so quite sickly happy about that. I'm like, haha, now you all know how I've been suffering for all these years. You've walking a mile in my shoes now, and I hope you're all hating it, but and I know that's not really a very caring attitude to take, but I really did enjoy the fact that they were suffering along with me for the first time. And it did make things much easier.
I could understand
Probably
that.
shouldn't admit that, but it's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I felt that about my own stuff, because I've got chronic health issues that really quite limit what I can do physically. and sometimes people can get a bit judgy about that or something, and now seeing all the people complaining about like, oh, can't I go out to the pub every weekend anymore, and I'm like, ha 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 ha, you know.
Now you know how it feels.
I know, and you feel quite like a bit dark about that, but then at the same time it's like, okay, yeah, but it does feel good. It does.
Yeah.
It feels good now. Everybody else is suffering.
Exactly. Yeah. Like as if I'm some sort of evil supervillain. Like, haha, you are all doomed.
Yeah.
I think also on social media you would always, I don't know, social media can bring me down quite a lot. When you see people doing just what you're saying, Gemma, like doing stuff with your kids and they've got the perfect family picture and they're going to this lovely outing, and nobody had that. Everybody was the same. So I can totally understand where you're coming from. You didn't have the fear of missing out, as it's called, you know, oh, I've not did that with my children, or I've not been here, or I've not done that, or I can never get all of us smiling at the one time. Didn't matter because, you know, everybody was exactly the same, and it kind of made me feel a bit smug as well. I was like, right, you're not missing out on anything, just get on with your own life. So it kind of changed my attitude now. I'm like, you don't need social media for all the things because it can be quite negative at times, and just to try and be positive and focus on what's working for you, and it doesn't matter what's working for the other person because that's their life. This is your life and you've got to work on that yourself and be the best person that you can be. Definitely.
I think the social media can help you in a way, although sometimes it's going to be negative. You just have to pick what's going to help you. Because for me, again, having family back in the Philippines, it's so easy for me to reach them, to call them without spending extra money to phone them. So for me, social media is really, really good way for me to call them, and also my friends who I haven't seen for a long time, video call them. So it's good. It depends on how you're going to use the social media. Sometimes it's just so bad you don't want to look at the news and stuff like that, but at the same time it's good for your family reunion over the phone and stuff like, or over the video.
Yeah, it has its points. It has its good points, definitely, but I think sometimes you're happy for other people having these experiences, but sometimes you just wish that you had thought of it first, or you had done that with your children, or you had went somewhere. It's not that you don't want that person not to have that experience, you do, but I think it's just a wee bit of, oh, why did I not do that with my kids, or why was I not able to do that, you know? And for me anyway, and
it's that wee bit telling you that you're not good enough, and oh, see, this is why, because you didn't think of that first. And
it's that chatter in your head. Mm-hmm. It's that chatter, that negative chatter that you have to just mute sometimes. So I feel as if that's a wee bit less now, because you're not seeing everybody maybe doing as much as what they would if it had been a normal time. It's just human nature, I suppose, isn't it? It's just about trying to not worry so much about what other people are getting up to and just worry about what you're doing.
Easier said than done, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm terrible for that.
It's so hard.
It is.
It's hard when it's your mind thinking of something else you just can't control.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of minds thinking of something else, we are coming to the end of our time, and I do have a question, which is very important. We discussed this
probably
beforehand.
the most important one so far.
Yeah, we discussed this before the podcast. And
it sounds so ominous.
If you were... Oh, it's absolutely ominous. If you were a type of biscuit, what biscuit would you be?
I would be a fig roll.
Why?
Because nobody likes fig rolls, so nobody would eat me. I'd be left on the plate.
I like big rolls and I like you, so stop it.
Wait, I know. Are you saying that you don't like you?
No, I mean because nobody would eat me because they don't want a...
So it's a survival strategy.
Right.
Okay, I think then I would be a Kit Kat because there's a few layers to a Kit Kat.
Yeah.
I would be a custard cream. I will be a custard cream. It's because I like it and my children likes it. But I would love the question to be if you will be a cake.
Well, you
I like cake than biscuits.
Next time you're on the podcast, we shall ask you that question.
What would you be, Jules?
You weren't expecting that. I just seen your face there.
I didn't have an
answer.
answer.
You got one on the spot. You done it to us.
I love bourbon creams, so I'm just going to be a bourbon cream.
Okay, Frankie, what were you?
I think I'm going to be a rich tea for the same reason as you'd be a fig roll, because no one likes them.
Rich tea is nice with coffee or tea.
I don't mind to be rich tea.
I can go through a...
There's nothing to them.
I can go through a bit.
I would rather have a rich tea biscuit than a fig roll.
Exactly.
I think it's good for decorating stuff for children, the rich tea.
I've never seen a rich tea biscuit being used to decorate.
Oh yeah, they do a lot in nursery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, see, you're kind of liking things that you don't usually like.
Yeah, you can make like little cakes out of them. Your two rich tea biscuits with a jam in the middle, and then a wee bit of icing on top. A couple of wee marshmallows.
Yeah.
Am I going to have to think of a worse biscuit now?
Well, I'm afraid that's about all we've got time for.
I know, it's already an hour.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's we were warned as well, like it's going to pass really quick.
It did.
And yeah, I've been getting little messages from Annie every so often with updates on the time, which I'm very grateful for because I was not paying attention. So it's really good to have somebody else to pay attention to that for you. But yeah, this has been great. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you guys have too.
That's cool.
And
I did. It's like a chill conversation with you. It's nice to see you over the video.
Yeah.
It's cool.
it's really good to hear about what your lives. Sorry, I've interrupted there. But it's really good to hear about what your lives have been like because it's so different to my own. So it's really good to hear those other experiences. Sorry, Gemma.
I was just going to say that I've really enjoyed as well, and I hope you invite me back for another one.
It's a contract now.
What?
Sorry, Arpie.
What I really hope is for us to see each other like face to face. That will be better for me. But for now, this will do.
I've really enjoyed it too. Thank you. It's been nice to actually vocalise how you feel and just get it off your chest, I suppose.